An Emergency Tarp Shelter by Cryptic Cricket. A tarp shelter is a very basic shelter that's often made from a waterproof utility tarp. Cordage is a must for setting up a tarp shelter. Tent stakes are just something that's really nice to have. I'm going to show you two different versions of the same design. A tall version that closes all the way up, and a short version that stays open on the front. Both versions have room for two people and their gear. You'll need an 8x10 utility tarp to make this shelter. The basic shelter is held to the ground with just 4 tent stakes. A fifth stake stakes out a line that supports the shelter's support pole. 6th and 7th stakes stake down the opening to the shelter. You start by staking down the 2 innermost grommets at the rear of the shelter. Then you move to the front of the shelter and set up a support pole. You tie off the peak of the shelter at whatever height you want the peak of the shelter at. Next you move to the sides of the shelter and stake out the sides. Now you tuck the loose rear corners of the tarp in under the shelter. Last you come around to the front and stake out the opening to your shelter. If it's buggy, windy, rainy, or cold, or there are critters, you may want to close the front of your shelter up. To do this, you're going to have to raise the peak of your shelter higher. Doing this will bring the sides in, which will free up enough tarp that you can fold in the extra material, creating flaps to close off the entrance to your shelter. This is an emergency shelter, but you don't want to be setting this up for the first time when an emergency comes. So I recommend that you get out there and set it up a few times in a few different configurations before you actually need to use it. Tarp shelters are not as secure as a real tent when it comes to critters, so be aware of that. Creepy crawlies can ruin a night's sleep as well as make you ill, so be really careful where you set up your shelter. Having a bunch of fire ants try to take you apart piece by piece while you sleep and take you back to their nest would kinda suck. Sends chills down my spine. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. This whole tarp shelter kit only weighs 1.5 pounds. A ground sheet would be a great addition to this kit. It might keep the creepy crawlies from turning you into lunch. It would be nice to have if the ground were wet too. Well folks, I've just shown you one style of tarp shelter. I hope that was helpful. I'll be bringing you more neat stuff, so subscribe for updates. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.